Hey everybody, Crystal Gamer here with a new speed build for you. How about that club music, huh? That is because we have my first nightclub. Yay! This is the first time I've ever done a nightclub, so I'm kind of happy about that. I have called this one the Rainbow Hearts Club, and you're going to see very quickly why it has that name. It was inspired by a couple of different pieces in the game. One, that rainbow door that we have in the game, or the door that can become a rainbow colored door. And also the heart thing that comes with, I think it might come with Outdoor Retreat maybe. It's the wooden heart, what do you call it? Decoration, wall decoration thing, and you can make it into a rainbow color. And that's going to get incorporated into the build later. So those two pieces are what inspired me. I wanted to do some kind of a rainbow build, and why not a club? That makes really perfect sense to me. Partially because I'm familiar with a club with the rainbow in the name. It happens to be an LGBT club. And I figured too that this build is probably going to appeal to a lot of the LGBT crowd, which is cool. It doesn't have to be though. I think it can be any kind of club for anything, but it definitely lends itself well to the LGBT whole rainbow thing for sure. And someone recently told me, I have no idea if this is true or not, but someone recently told me that the rainbow was like the Christian symbol or something before it was the LGBT symbol or something like that. I have no idea if that's true, but if it is, maybe it appeals to that too. Although I don't know how many Christians would totally love a dance club if they're hardcore. I don't know. It might depend. I'm so not knowledgeable in this stuff at all, but I just do for fun. Whatever works for fun is good for me. And this is bright and happy, and I love rainbows. So whatever groups or people it works for, hey, rock on. I'm big on a lot of color. I love bright stuff. You guys, if you've been paying attention, you probably saw my Toyland build, and that's another one that's bright with a lot of colors. And I like working, if you can find a good reason to use a lot of brights and a lot of nifty colors and everything, it's really cool. And obviously 9 out of 10 cases, you're probably going to end up in some commercial lot for that sort of thing. Hence why, I came up with a toy place and a nightclub and all of that stuff. But yeah. It's just cool stuff. Now, the bottom of this ends up being obviously very colorful. We can see that. We end up with a rainbow color on the bottom. It ends up for a nightclub, it ends up being pretty bright because a lot of the decor pieces I use are actually lights. Like the little chess pieces and stuff like that, the chess pawns and things like that. Those are lights. What do you call them? The columns that are all around the outside. I'm not sure if those are official lights. They're columns, but I think that they also function as lights. They add some degree of light. I don't know that they add a whole ton, but they definitely add some degree of light. Then I think the dance floor adds lights. The bars that I used are the light up kind of bars. And then I have those funky standing lights that are kind of twisty and cool looking. And so even though the club downstairs, I don't think I even have any overhead lights anywhere downstairs, but just because of all of the other stuff that I used, it ends up being pretty bright actually. And then the upstairs ends up not being quite as bright. The upstairs is the VIP lounge. And I started out, I sort of did a cheater thing. I copied the downstairs to the upstairs to start it, because I knew the outside was going to be, the color scheme on the outside and the columns and everything on the outside. I knew I wanted to carry that over to the second floor. So when I started the second floor, I just figured I'd do a copy paste, and here it comes, I believe. And so that made my life a little bit easier. Of course, I started on the upstairs with still doing the lights and the colors, and I kind of forgot my plan, because I did have a plan when I started this that I was going to do the upstairs as VIP, and I wanted to use the draperies, curtains, whatever you want to call them, from, I don't know, it's probably the luxury pack or maybe the vintage glamour or something like that. It's probably from one of those packs. But those draper items that they kind of light up too, they have sort of their own glow. So I used a lot of things in this build that I was using as decor items, but they also functioned as light items. And I really love that in the game. I love stuff that has that dual kind of functionality like that. And especially a lot of the lights in the game, I have to say they do a good job with I consider lights to be design elements as well. A lot of times lighting can be design elements because they can be sculptures. They can be very, very interesting pieces. And so if you can incorporate lighting elements in design, to me, it's always awesome. And let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh, I set up the front originally. Like I said, I had the VIP area upstairs was my idea. And my original idea was 2 separate entrances. One for the main entrance and the regular club goers, and a second entrance for the VIP. And my thought was to have 2 lines out front, like waiting lines. My idea being from clubs that I've been to myself, like the waiting lines that develop on the Friday and Saturday nights at some of the clubs out front, you know. And so I was thinking it'd be kind of cool to have like sort of 2 waiting line areas out front. But I didn't end up, I did this whole entry thing and I cut it out of the video because I didn't end up liking it and I ended up changing it. And so I still do end up with a separate VIP, but we have one main entrance into the club now, and then the VIP entrance is a separate entrance inside the club off the side. So I got rid of, you saw I developed the 2 sort of lines for out front, and I ended up taking that down to 1 because I changed the way I did the entry. But I think I like it a little bit better. And then this up here, when we get to this upstairs VIP section, I've separated it out so that we have a couple of separate rooms and they're different colors. And so my thought is VIPs can maybe reserve these little areas. And so they can reserve the red room or the purple room or whatnot and have that area for themselves and their friends for an evening. And of course, they're free to go downstairs to the dance club part, and they have the view, like they can watch the dancing and stuff downstairs even when they're in the VIP area. So yeah, that was my idea on that. I thought it might be a cool little place to make a little area upstairs. Now on playability, I used it just a hair, and it seems that most of the people hang out downstairs, but the bartender automatically populates one of the bars downstairs, not upstairs. I don't know if you play the game, I would assume you can just populate the upstairs bar, and then that would draw people upstairs. Populate it with another bartender, you know? That would be my thought anyway. And I want to say we're going to hit the end of this like so fast, and I'm so afraid it's going to like come up before I'm ready for it, because this is a quick one. It didn't take forever to do it because it's a small one too. It's on a small lot. It's on maybe, I don't know, maybe one of the 20 by 30s. It's one of the smaller lots. Oh, and we do end up with a little outside area with a couple of dart tables and foosball table and all of that. And the main reason I created that is because almost all of these clubs nowadays, at least in the States, I don't know about in other areas, but at least in the States, almost all of these clubs have like some kind of deck or some kind of area for smokers, usually. And, you know, if you can provide a little entertainment out there, like a dartboard or a foosball table, hey, why not? It's kind of my thought anyway. And so I have a lot of these different lights. I end up changing a lot of the lights and stuff out upstairs. I started with a light thing and I end up going to more of the curtains. And part of it was I thought that the curtains gave a softer feel. I thought that the curtains gave a more luxurious feel. And then the other addition that you guys are going to see me add is I used those windows that are also mirrors. They're one-sided. And so they're mirrors on one side. They're the ones that came with I think it was the Get to Work, where it has the police station and all of that. So it's the one-sided mirrors that are meant to be in a police station. But I used them in this build because I just thought it would be really cool to have some mirrored windows on the outside of this build. But you don't want them like in a club. You don't really want to be able to see out those windows. So these gorgeous kind of draperies provided a really good cover for the fact that I had those windows all over the outside. So the draperies did like double and triple duty because they just gave her softer feel, a more luxurious feel, and they hid those windows from the upstairs. Because if you're in a nightclub, you don't want to be looking out windows, you know? So yeah, they did a lot. I think that they did a lot. And so I ended up, I originally started with having the drapers only in the private VIP rooms, and then they sort of ended up covering pretty much all of the VIP area, you know. So, not a bad thing though. But yeah, like this bill a lot, and I hope other people like this, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe it's a little hit with the LGBT crowd. I think that would be kind of cool. It would make me happy. I'm a B myself, so it's, you know, I'm part of that, but I'm not like one of these people that's like, oh, you have to have everything for that. You know, I'm kind of apolitical in that sense. I'm just like happy. I want everything happy, and that makes me happy. I think life should be about pleasure. As much as you can make it anyway, you know? And speaking of happy, pleasurable things, I have some upcoming stuff that, before we get to the end of this, maybe I can talk about. I have something that I'm working on that is a series or a start of a series. I want to do a series. I want to do kind of like an HGTV style series. And I'd love to know what you guys think about this idea too. Because I've already started it. I've got like the first video done, and if you're not familiar with HGTV, like if you're in a different country or something like that, HGTV is home and garden television. So they do all sorts of different types of shows, design shows and building shows and renovation shows and garden shows. And I mean, you name it, they do all sorts of stuff. And so I had this idea to do an HGTV style show where basically I have clients and I do renos. And so I've got the first video about done. And so I want to have stories for the clients and kind of go through a whole renovation process and have them have requirements and see how it comes at the end. And I don't know, I'm hoping that you guys think it's a good idea, and I'm hoping that people like it. I need to get further along though. I feel like I need to, it's one of these things, it's more work than a regular like speed build video. It's definitely more work because I have to do more in cinematics and before and afters and developing the characters and you know, all of that, or the story for it and everything. And so it's some more work, and I feel like I need to get a few of them in the bank before I actually start the series. So, you know, I'm letting you guys know probably a little bit in advance because it's going to be probably a little while. I keep trying to get ahead of the curve on builds, but I don't know. I'm too slow. But we are already hitting the end and the screenshots and all that stuff. And so I hope you like this build. And if you do, please do hit the like button. And if you like this and my other content on my channel, please don't forget to hit subscribe. That does help us YouTubers out a lot, and I would appreciate it a whole bunch. And thank you so much for spending the time with me today. And I hope to see you again next time around. Bye now.